Hello viewers, here is a Robeson box VN. This is a very rare and very unusual model, most notably the blade, and the motor's a bit of an oddity too. This is the Robeson 2306 box VN. And it claims 2.7 amps, but that is totally wrong because this utilizes a PSC motor which draws probably somewhere around 1 amp. There often was a discrepancy in the stickers on the fan versus the motor itself, but it's usually a very small discrepancy, like 2.7 versus 2.3 amps or something in that range. This is way out there, and it clearly, they just never updated the sticker from when the shaded pole motor was still being utilized. The cord comes out the bottom, which is a stupid and bizarre design, and so we have these large feet on here, which looks like this one was replaced. This was serviced by the letter H before it came to me, so that might have been something he did. And that would be absolutely essential, because if any of those feet were to fall off, the cord would get pinched and eventually short out and just cause all sorts of problems. That's kind of a stupid design. I don't know why on earth they made it that way. Taking a look at the back, we can see it's got that lovely piece of plastic blocking the motor, which I have no idea why on earth that was done. It just cuts off the airflow. There's the information on the motor itself. It is the Robeson Industries Corporation model FMR031L1, and there you can see it draws 1.2 amps and calls for a 4.5 microfarads capacitor, made in Korea. Now, this is like the very early tuna can motor, if you will, but as I said on many occasions, I don't think these were inferior to the old shaded pole motors. People get all bent out of shape on the size, and while yes, this one is not as wide as the old shaded pole motors were, this one is much longer, and so the surface area on the rotor is probably the same or more. Not to mention the PSC form factor is more powerful, so a smaller physical size can produce more power anyways, so it doesn't make any difference in this particular scenario. They're probably equivalent. On the top we have the typical Lakewood looking handle and switch with the Robeson brand. The switch has seen better days. It's kind of the plastic is really deteriorated, and it's turning into that like dusty material. It's not too bad, but it is happening. So maybe wonder if like some kind of a clear coat, like almost like a winding varnish or something, could be sprayed on there to preserve that some more. The handle, I would imagine, is going to go the same route. It does look like it's starting to kind of crack a little bit as the plastic ages, which is odd because the guards are actually really good. They're not even yellowed at all. So unless they're made out of some very resilient plastic, it would appear as though this didn't spend a whole lot of time in the sun. The cabinet is in excellent condition. I guess that letter must have cleaned it up in some way that I don't know how to do, because I have never seen a cabinet with this much shine to it. I mean, the finish on this thing is incredible. And it's not even like that's scratched up or anything. It's in really good shape still. Look at it, it's got a mirror finish on it. That is unbelievable. So the OEM is in total question to me, because although the cabinet and the frame and whatever would certainly appear to be the same as what Lakewood made and used, I don't believe that the Robeson models were made by Lakewood, because they're not a direct rebranding. The blades were always different. They made a second and third generation model, and while the blades looked similar from a distance, they were not identical like the other rebrands were, like the JCPenney's and the Barclay and the Kmart and all the other ones were direct rebadges, whereas the Robeson models were not. So I don't think that this is a Lakewood product, but I could be wrong, because this motor did surface in some Lakewood third generation models towards the end of the third generation era. But I don't know, this blade is not a Lakewood product, I don't think. It doesn't seem like, we never saw a Lakewood model like this. So I don't know. They could have made it, but I don't think so. I think somebody else was involved in the manufacturing of these Robeson products. Mounted on the back, we have the capacitor. Now I believe this motor is a Samsung motor, but I'm not completely certain. These capacitors, this kind of capacitor, is not known to be very reliable over time, so I'm going to go ahead and replace that. I have already tested this, and it seems like it's a bit underpowered, particularly on the slower speeds. And while it could just be like that by design, it seems a little bit almost suspiciously slow. So I do think that this capacitor might have drifted, and if it hasn't drifted, it's going to drift any soon, so it might as well just be replaced with something much more reliable. So we'll do that eventually, but for now it is still operating. It just doesn't seem like it's quite the way it should be. I haven't checked it with the kilowatts meter though, so that will give us some indication on how the capacitor is operating for the moment. Here's the plug. It seems to tilt forward ever so slightly, which would make sense because the feet in the back do seem to be substantially taller than what's in the front. I don't know if either one of these feet are the original. I would wager that this one is the original and this one is a replacement, which is a pretty good replacement. But I would think that it should have all been like those plastic ones, so it's even. Because if anything, I would always want it to tilt up a little bit. So I don't know, maybe we'll change those feet. The blade is just absolutely fascinating. It looks like a 20-inch version of a basic desktop fan. Very intriguing design. I can't tell if it's warped or not. It seems like it's getting very close to the guard here, which probably isn't correct because the hub isn't like that. If we can peep in there or not. Now the card's got a lot of screws on it here. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. It doesn't seem like it's warped in terms of the way it moves the air, so maybe that's just how it always has been. Well, let's go ahead and start this thing up so we can see how it performs. Looking at 119.1 volts, which is going to go down because I think I'm going to have to turn the air conditioners on today. Here we go with a low. The motor is very noisy. It's going to need to be revarnished, I think. And I also kind of feel like maybe the capacitor is drifted a bit because it doesn't sound right. And the quality of the health of the capacitor absolutely can impact the sound the motor makes. So we're looking at 0.63 amps, 74 the watts with a power factor of 0.99. It just doesn't sound quite right to me. The airflow is impressive. The air noise is just about inaudible. It's noisy because the motor hum, but the airflow, the air noise is non-existent. And it is moving air impressively well. There is already a strong breeze coming out of this fan. And I like the way that it moves the air, because the airflow is very steady and it travels very far. This is an excellent box fan. Probably one of the best ones I've ever used. All the way across this room here, which is very large, I can feel a totally noticeable breeze from this fan. And yet it's almost totally inaudible. It does seem like it's slowly picking up speed as it runs, so that could be another indicator that we have a weak capacitor. The motor has already been serviced, so shouldn't be a bearings issue. Alright, let's go up to the medium. Now we can hear the blades, but even this is like the noise level of low speed on most plastic box fans. But yet the airflow is like the high, and the airflow is just incredible. It's a little bit out of balance. Not horribly, but actually it's really nothing for our balance. It's shaking so much. Yeah, the airflow is just absolutely amazing on this thing. What's impressive is how quiet it is for the airflow. You can get metal box fans that move more air than this, but they're not as quiet. It also seems to spread the air out as it moves. You can feel the air, even though you're not directly in front of the fan, it moves out to the sides a bit. It really creates an incredible amount of air circulation in the room. .84 amps, 97 watts with a power factor of 0.97. And now we'll go to the high. And then there's 1.03 amps, 112 watts with a power factor of 0.91. So it's running a bit below spec by 0.2 amps. That's not outside of a reasonable margin, but I would expect a slightly higher power factor. And I wouldn't be surprised if we could replace the capacitor and get it up to 1.2 amps. It's not underpowered by any means, but I just don't like the sound of that motor. So the noise level of this is super quiet. This is easily one of the quietest plastic box fans I've ever used. And the airflow is just unreal. I really wasn't expecting this to be a very strong fan, but this is phenomenal performance. I think this moves more air than a 223 does. And those are pretty good. This is really a great product. It's a shame that there weren't more of them. And it's just so quiet. Bearings appear to be in good condition. Alright, let's see if we can get some starting up sounds. We'll begin with the high. That's kind of a weird startup sounds. Something sounds fishy about that motor. Either the windings are starting to get loose, or the capacitor is not what it should be. It doesn't quite sound correct. We'll get a check. We'll check it out. We'll either do a revarnish. You know, something this rare probably should just revarnish anyways. Medium. Sounds the same on medium, which is no real surprise. It's a beautiful day today. The leaves are really starting to fill in now. Very nice scenery out the windows. Alright, now the low. It seems like the low speed is considerably faster now than when I first tested it out. It's still a nice slow low, but it's definitely moving a lot more air. And the power draw has gone down to 0.58. So there's something fishy about the motor, but we'll get it checked out. So here it is. This bizarre Robeson box fan. There can't be many of these left, so I'm very happy to have one, and one that's in such good condition.